Shaq, I'll start with you. What do you make of the comments there from Mikel Arteta? He is in an awkward spot. His goalie's just had a clean sheet against the defending champions, one of the best teams in the world, and yet he's having to defend them.
Yeah, but it's a good week for Mikel Arteta to be having to defend some of his own decisions. You just beat Manchester City. You can get away with a lot. But to Arteta's answer, it is his fault. I think a lot of some of the uncertainty around the goalkeeping position, and I heard the crowd getting antsy as the game went on. I think a lot of that is kind of born in how Arteta managed the switch from Ramsdale, who was in goal for all of last season, Arsenal's highest finish in what, 20-odd years or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden has found himself on the bench for David Raya, when, I'll speak for myself here, I don't think Aaron Ramsdale did an awful lot wrong. But Arteta kind of laid the groundwork and saying that he thought about subbing the keeper in and out during the course of a game over the last couple of seasons, and he regrets not doing it. He brings Raya in because of his ability to play the ball out from the back, and then not once but on a few occasions in the last few games, he's been caught out. As it happens, again, because of the opposition and it not being punished, it's okay to take that knock on the chin, whether you're Arteta or David Raya. But there's been more than enough alarm bells to concern a neutral observer.
On the performance itself, are there enough alarm bells to consider a change right now?
No, to consider a change, no. I think you make this decision, this has to go on far more consistently. I think some of those mistakes have to be bigger for want of a...
But was there a big mistake for Ramsdale, necessarily?
No.
I mean, the bar wasn't very high for Ramsdale. Why is it not the same for Raya?
And again, for me, I still believe that Ramsdale is the better of the two goalkeepers. I saw absolutely no need for Ramsdale to lose a spot, but because you make that decision doesn't mean that as a manager, every time a goalkeeper has a mistake, whether it's punished or not, that you swap him in and out. I think that doesn't do Ramsdale any justice, and it certainly doesn't do David Raya any either.
Is this really the position where Arteta needs to be tinkering, looking for an edge?
Well, he's looking to improve the team in any position he can, so I don't particularly agree with it, but that's what he's looking to do. If he feels... Look, let me put it another way. He's not putting David Raya in because he thinks Arsenal are a poorer team because of it. He thinks they're a better team. There is an argument. I was just looking, he's played 4 matches, right? One of those matches he got away with it against Man City to a certain extent because A, they won the game, 2, any sort of flapping from crosses that I know we'll probably have a little look at some point, and they taken the ball in when Alvarez shut him down. He got away with that. A couple of dodgy passes out. The Lons game, he didn't get away with it. The other 2 games, I can't remember if he made any mistakes with his feet. I mean, imagining there was some risky passes. So we're already at a 50% negativity rate almost in the 4 games that he's played. So that's telling you that he's taken these risks every game that he plays. We can sit here and argue about whether this is harsh on Ramsdale or not. I'm in agreement with Shaka. I think it is. And I think David Raya has pluses and minuses to his game. But this is all going to wash out as the season goes forward. As Shaq said, it was pretty easy to sit there and take the blame and defend the goalkeeper at the weekend because they've just beaten Man City for the first time in X amount of games, right? They've just beaten Man City in the Premier League. They've just taken a bit of pressure off. So it was very, very easy to say, hey, I told him to keep doing this. It's on me. He's got big this, he's got big that. Had it gone the opposite way, that press conference would have been completely different.
Casey, you're no stranger to competition in goal. Everybody knows about your longtime battle from the U.S. team with Brad Friedel. You took the job off Julian Lopetegui when you got to Rayo Vallecano. What do you think of what's happening at Arsenal right now?
Yeah, I think it all basically stems from the start of how Raya got to Arsenal and the confusion behind it and why Arteta felt that this is what they needed to do at this point in time. And when he made that commitment financially to bring in Raya, then the decision was basically made. He felt, to Craig's point, that he must be the better goalkeeper between the two. We can all think differently or think that there was a close enough there that it really wasn't something that Arsenal needed to address at this point in time. I understand that if Turner's leaving to go to Nottingham Forest, that you needed cover, so then what normally is the case, you bring in a veteran goalkeeper that you won't hesitate if your starting goalkeeper slips up and isn't playing well, or you bring in a young up-and-coming kid that pushes him for that starting spot. Instead, you sign 2 number ones, which causes all kinds of problems in your changing room. It causes problems with the fans. And then when that new goalkeeper comes in and has shaky moments like Craig and Shaka talked about, the fans then get on the back, and the manager has no other choice but to back the guy that he spent a ton of money to bring in to replace a guy that really didn't need to be replaced. So why Arteta decided at this stage that this was the controversy he wanted to bring into his squad, I think we're all shaking our heads on that.
That also could be part of the process, and we can call it favouritism or whatever. But I remember when I was playing for the national team, and we had a goalkeeping coach, and Alan Hodgkinson, who was also the goalkeeping coach for Rangers at the time. And the then Rangers goalkeeper was Andy Gorham, who's no longer with us, sadly. But Andy was vying with Jim Leighton, former Aberdeen and Manchester United goalkeeper, for the number 1 spot. And Jim always felt that Andy had the upper hand in the selection process. And safe to say, Jim was a bit paranoid about it because of the situation behind the scenes. So you got to also look to who's maybe Arteta taking the advice from. Managers are, by all accounts, none of us are goalkeeping experts, although we all sit here and pontificate when a goalie leaves something at the near post or ever. But even a manager has to, I think, take a backward step sometimes to the goalkeeping coach in terms of the expertise of what a guy is good at and not good at. And maybe that's going to be part of the problem for Ramsdale going forward as well, even if David Raya continues to take huge risks.
To that point, this competition for places, goalkeeper or anywhere else, is not new to the game.
But is it different between other positions in goal?
Well, it's different between other positions because you can bring in Trossard and you can play Gabriel Jesus and Trossard together. You can bring in Havertz to play on the left-hand side, and all of a sudden, if you decide, you can play Havertz and Martinelli, who he's supposed to replace, together. You can't do that with 2 goalkeepers. But even so, many a club, many a manager wants to have 2 top-notch goalkeepers. Again, this is not something new or unique to Arsenal or Arteta, but you have to learn from lessons gone in how you manage those personalities, how you manage that position, because you can't say to one, as you made to Trossard, listen, you're good enough to take Gabriel Jesus' place, but today I'm going to play on the right-hand side, or whatever it is. You can't throw them a bone that way. So you have to manage that process, because you may very well lose at least one, if not both, if it's not managed absolutely well. And that always has been my concern. Arteta is paid to decide who's his starting goalkeeper, to figure out how he manages that. My concern was he wasn't doing a good job to start with.
It goes back to the discussion we had when Arteta made the comments about, well, I should have subbed the goalkeeper off in the 60th minute or whatever it is, and I'll do it in the future. And we sort of threw it around this desk a little bit. And my point was, it's a kind of moot point, as ridiculous a comment it is, until it happens and comes back and haunts Arsenal, potentially. And this is very similar in that if we're sat here at Christmas and they've put 12... I'm just going to throw this out there. If they've won a dozen games in the trot in the Premier League, right? But yet he has made a mistake every game and he's taken all these risks, it really is going to be a moot point. It's all dependent on what Arsenal do between now and Christmas and now and the end of the season. He could make umpteen mistakes a game. If Arteta's happy with that and they're winning and they dethrone Man City, nobody's going to give a hoot. And a few people might ask him and say, well, what about the keeper? And he'll say, look at the league table. And that, at the end of the day, is what all this is going to boil down to. Now, at the moment, there is a huge question mark, and that's why we're talking about it, as to whether his mistakes or his risks, should I say, are going to cost him.
Iñaki Caña, the goalie coach you were thinking about from Brentford, joined Arsenal in 2019. You were correct.